TCHs in about 2 weeks. Give me a little bit of time. So thank you. I see this session is being recorded already, just to let everyone know. Chat box is being monitored too, so no personal information or anything you don't want recorded. All right, so today's session is hosted by RCAP Solutions. This is pictures of Andrew and I. Andrew is your tech facilitator today. We both like to fish, as you can see. And I'm having some technical difficulties. Okay.
Rebecca, I did already answer Marty, but I think Benjamin is also having audio issues. I was going to get back to him if you want to just continue.
Yeah, on their end, just guide them through the settings.
Oh, thanks for the nice fish comment. We appreciate that.
So RCAP Solutions is, we're working in Massachusetts right now, but we're really all over the country. We're in the purple states on the map there, kind of the New England area, plus Pennsylvania, New Jersey. We're a nonprofit company, and we provide training and technical assistance to rural communities and tribes with drinking water and wastewater treatment, utility finance, management, and general administration. Oopsies. Today's presenter is Andrew Hildick-Smith. He's worked at the MWRA for 30 years, where among other roles, he is responsible for the SCADA system and the authority's emergency planning and preparedness. He has been active in cybersecurity since 2005 and is the OT security lead at WaterISAC and a principal at OTSec LLC. He is working with the Massachusetts DEP to promote cybersecurity at water utilities. So welcome, Andrew.
Hey, Rebecca, thank you very much.
Going to pass the presentation to you right now.
Okay. Okay, I think we're good.
Yep.
So thanks everybody for being here. This is courtesy of the MassDEP, and they're doing a good job at trying to make everybody aware of cybersecurity issues. So today's presentation is on phishing, recognizing it, reporting it. We have a few things we're going to go through. Just first, social engineering, what that is, give phishing examples, what are some of the warning signs, what to do when for reporting phishing, suspicious requests, some precautionary measures we can take. So social engineering, that's sort of the broad term for tricking people. Essentially, it's an adversary, somebody's manipulating us for access or information, and the end goal may be money or something else, but it's basically access or information, and it's making use of deception. So they create some scenario, and then they depend on our human nature, which we can which can include like our nature to want to help people, or that we're kind of rushed and don't really take time to look at things, or maybe it's greed because we see some money or something. Some classic examples are the US, you hear about USB thumb drives placed in the parking lot outside of work. So somebody picks it up and plugs it in to see what's there. And lo and behold, there's some malware on it. So that's like a classic example. Or business email compromise, when the adversary is looking to have fund routing numbers change so that they get a payment instead of whoever is supposed to be getting a payment. And then, of course, phishing. So let's pretend for a moment that we're like members of some criminal syndicate, and our boss isn't so happy because we haven't been catching many targets, many victims, and so we got to do a little bit better job. So here are the steps we need to go through. We got to pick our target. So that can be like a individual or a broadcast, like a broad group of people. So let's go with we'll pick an individual, or maybe we'll pick a water utility sector and broadcast information. But either way, we're going to want to research the targets or go online and find out whatever we can about that target, that person or that company, so we can produce a more realistic sounding message. And then we have to decide, well, what's the medium? Are we going to be sending this as an email or an SMS text, or is it going to be a voicemail? How do we want to get the request to the victim? And then the payload, what is it that we want the individual, the recipient, to do? And that might be, things like clicking on a link or opening an attachment or talking to us. And then the next step is sort of starts to become more technical in terms of like, we have to make sure that whatever we produce and send isn't going to get blocked by the automated defenses that the organization has in place. So, the first thing might be like email filtering. So that will take out a lot of bad emails, but it's not going to take out everything, because it needs to be tuned to not over delete things. And then back to sort of the social part, it's like it's really we as the bad guys want to make sure that the message looks right, but more importantly feels right. It feels like a legitimate message, because we can react, the victim can react viscerally to something, and it's like, nah, this doesn't feel quite right. So it needs to look and feel right. And then we want to have that victim react as desired, and whether that's clicking or opening a file or calling us. And then when the victim takes that step, which say is clicking, opening an attachment, again, we have to make sure that whatever we've programmed in, whatever sort of malware we have, isn't going to get detected by antivirus or endpoint detection response, cybersecurity products. So, all these, it's not easy for these Fisher folks. And they got to go through a bunch of steps if they want to be successful. So we're gonna try to keep that from happening. Here's one example. We'll go through a few examples. This
Andrew?
one, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I don't see any display currently. Are you sharing your screen?
Geez, I thought I was. Rebecca,
Yep. That's why I wanted to stop you real quick.
Rebecca?
All I see is the camera. He sees it fine, so it must just be me. Okay, continue on. My apologies.
Okay, I see a few thumbs up, so I'm going to keep going. But if thanks for chiming in though. So this is one. So WaterISAC is a really good water organization involved with physical and cybersecurity. And so this is something that looks like it may have come from the WaterISAC, except look at that email address. That's doesn't look like a WaterISAC or some kind of formal organization's email address. And then the attachment is a zip file. So going back to when we put our evil hat on, we don't want to get caught by that automated cyber defenses in the email system, so email filtering. And so one way to avoid that is to encrypt the content. So this is a zip file that's encrypted. And, the big hint is there's a password. So you have to type in a password to unencrypt the message if you clicked on this. And then another clue is the phone numbers. Those are kind of wacky phone numbers for the US. So, so probably this was written by somebody in another country. They didn't put a lot of effort. They didn't do any research. This was like a low quality fish. But things we can keep an eye out for. One is just, most of our organizations have this kind of warning that says, hey, you just got something it's from outside our system. And after a while, it gets kind of easy to ignore that, but try to stay keyed into it because it's a good first clue that I should pay a little more attention to this one. And then attachments, like we just saw, that encrypted zip file is a kind of an attachment that a bad guy, is good from a technical point of view. And other things like DocuSign documents like this is like an encrypted document. The one on the right is an HTML file. That's sort of like a web page kind of file, and you should never be getting that as an attachment. And that has certain sort of programming capabilities that make it good for doing malicious things. And then a couple others, which you may have never seen, but you might in the future as attachment, is this XLL file, which is like to do with Excel, and an ISO is an image file. Those are other kinds of files that an adversary bad guy can use to try to bypass some of the automated defenses that a utility or other organization might have set up. So if you spot a phishing email, or if you're kind of pretty sure, or maybe it is a phishing email, report it to your IT department. They're going to take steps that, depends on how they're set up, but they can let, if they recognize that, yeah, this is a serious phishing email, they may advertise, let other folks in your organization know. They might send it to their antivirus company so that can be incorporated into future editions of that software. And then, it's really a good, it's not like you have to do this, but it's really great if you get something and it's impersonating an individual or don't know. If you don't know the person, it's going to be hard to reach them. But if it's someone or it's a company, try to reach out to them and let them know somebody's trying to impersonate them to take advantage of, maybe it's their customers. And then finally, you might choose to, and this is also very optional, but you could consider forwarding the email as an attachment to this organization. They try to keep tabs on phishing events, and they share it with security firms. So there's some benefit to the wider community. But if there's something sensitive in your email, you don't want to forward it on to these people because they keep it and they share it. So if there's material content that you don't want any other people to see, don't forward it. If you get, tricked, and it's totally, any of us can get fooled by a phishing email. I mean, some are just really good and they fall into our expectations, or we might be just too frazzled that day. So it's definitely possible all of us can, click on a phishing email and get tricked. So if you have any suspicion, like for instance, you clicked on the attachment and there was nothing in it, or anything else that just was like, ooh, that's weird, get in contact with your IT department immediately, because a successful phishing attack is the first step of a sequence, and so that your IT department can intercede and make it harder for an adversary to do the next steps. And the IT department, depending on how they're organized and how they approach security, they may be telling you different things. So it might include disconnecting your network connection or powering down the computer. There's a good chance they'll ask you to change passwords. They may come to scan your computer or re-image the computer, but whatever it is they recommend and request, that's the approach to take. And again, if you can report it to whoever's being impersonated and that outside group, if you're interested in doing that. So here we have our first question. If Rebecca or Andrew want to read through that, or I can read through it. If someone is trying to trick you with a phishing email, what do they need to do to improve their chances of success?
Yep, poll has been test been launched. It's in progress now.
Be sure to let us know if you have any issues answering it. If you can't see the submit button, you may be zoomed in too much. I think on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a zoom in and out or plus and minus button. There's a possibility if you zoom in a little too much, you can't see the submit button, if that makes sense.
And so I'm not sure what everybody's seeing. What I see is like all, the list of all the questions. So I'm going to expand that first question and then pick my solution, my answer.
Yeah, people are slowly beginning to submit. I think it is a little bit clunky the way it operates now.
Yeah, how do you select? Maybe I have a different screen, but how do you actually select the
Yeah,
answer?
if you don't, organizers can't vote.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Don't listen to what I'm saying.
There should be I believe it's a submit button on the bottom right. But something seems very slow because only 14% have answered.
Yeah, it's getting up there now. We got about almost 25% now.
Don't you love technology?
No comment from me, Rebecca. Some days are better than others. Let's put it that way.
I'm not sure we're going to get too much. I feel like people might be having issues. So
I'll try to see if we can get at least past 50%. It's clicking along. We're almost there now. We'll give it another minute or so if we're not too pressed for time.
you're supposed to be seeing one question. Oh, you know what I did? I did it as all 5. That is my fault.
That is odd. How is that possible? I only clicked the one.
Nope. That
Okay.
is the way I did this.
It's a formatting thing internally, huh? Okay.
I can fix it. Just answer the first question.
There should be a drop down, I believe.
Just answer the first
just
question.
on that first one, yeah. I'll just give it another 10, 15 seconds, everyone. We're about 70%. I doubt we'll get too much higher than that. And I will end now and share the results. Andrew, here it comes. See how that works. So yeah,
okay,
it looks like people are answering all of them. Okay, so we got a little ahead of ourselves on that.
That's okay. That's me.
Yeah, we didn't realize that it was being shared that way. That's our fault, everyone.
Okay, well, looking at the first one, it looked like a vast majority selected E, which is all of the above, and that's the correct answer. So thank you. Okay, so moving on to some other examples, phishing examples. So this one's asking us, this is one that I had received, and it asked me to read the attached letter, and sort of what stood out was like, I don't know this person who's sending it. And then it was like, she wanted to distribute her wealth to me. It's like, nope, this one's a dud. But I took the attachment and sent it on to a service that the FBI provides of looking at the content. So they run it through a sandbox, and there are other places that can do this to let you know what was the intent of this attachment. And so they came back and said it was a keystroke, likely to be a keystroke logger, which is a really nasty thing because it's recording everything you type. So it'll be collecting, all my passwords as I type them in and forwarding them on to whoever. Okay. So this is an important one in terms of it's aiming at the water sector, specifically in Massachusetts, but it's this. It happened initially this past summer, and the Massachusetts DEP had a file online with all the PWS information on each of the water systems, and some adversary downloaded the whole data set and then appeared to automate a phishing campaign that reached out to many water utilities with the MassDEP's data about them, asking, is this correct? You got to let us know. Is this information about you correct? And fortunately, there were some things that stood out, like the address that it came from is not from the DEP. And then just sort of a hint anyway is this thing about the link's going to expire in 24 hours. So, time pressure is usually a good sign that to be more suspicious. And so if, however, somebody clicked on that green bar, they would get taken to a second page. And at this point, it was even more apparent that no, this is not something from the DEP. They gave a logo for some organization, like a transportation organization in New South Wales, Australia. So not that anybody would recognize that, but it doesn't look DEP-ish. And then it's asking for an email password. Well, the DEP and other organizations are not going to ask for your email password. And then just this week, it was repeated. So it appears to be the same actor trying the same thing again. They made some slight variations. They went from a MassDEP logo to a state logo on top. But there was still, it's not shown here, but it was coming from an address that was not a DEP address, and there's the time pressure element of still there. And then they made some tweaks, and one of them was like, if you don't respond, we're going to revoke your business license. Well, DEP doesn't have anything to do with business licenses, and so that hopefully would be a red flag. But again, further down on that page, there was like a click here. And if you click there, then the next screen, and this is the version of it that appeared on a cell phone, so slightly different format. But you can see one of the improvements, the actual improvement, was that they got rid of that New South Wales logo and put in a Massachusetts related one. But still, same request. It's like, give us your email password, and so that was a big tip off. And two people that I spoke to, utilities that received this recent version, they clicked on the first page. They're just like, hey, okay. But when they got to this page, there was like, cold stop. Nope, this is not right. And then what they did was they forwarded the information onto the DEP. So, that's the piece that's really super valuable and important. That's the piece of like sharing, letting whoever's being impersonated know that somebody's impersonating them so they can take action, which the DEP did, that same day was send out an advisory. Okay, another poll question. This one is, if you get tricked by a phishing email, what should you immediately do?
And
Okay.
this one's in the right format. Sorry, everyone, that first one had all of them.
I think we should see some good scores on this second time around.
That's much better. One question at a time is
That is better. Yeah.
Well, bite-sized pieces. That's on me.
I should have noticed it too when I opened it, Rebecca. That's partly my fault.
Different click of a button.
Things are coming in a lot faster this time, so we should be able to move along a little quicker. We're up to 50% now.
This one's a little tricky in that all the answer choices didn't show up on the screen that you're looking at. And so that's what's making it a little harder to answer this question. I apologize. So we could close this one, and the right answer did not. If we go back and look at the text version, so the right answer, if you close the poll, because it's not, it's not helping
I
us.
have closed it. Would you like me to stop sharing the results?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So the answer B was not included on that poll, and that's the right answer. And I think most folks recognize that, and that's what was kind of making it hard to choose between wrong answers. So if you get tricked, or even if you just want to think you see a phishing email, let your IT department know, especially if you've opened or clicked on something. Really important to do that, and they're going to be happy. They're going to be happy that you called them. So other warning signs. So web links. So CISA is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. That's a really important Department of Homeland Security agency with great cybersecurity information. Well, their web address is in the middle of this page. That's CISA.gov. So CISA is the domain, and .gov is the top level domain. And so up above in red, you can see, somebody's trying to trick a person by having a similar but not correct web address. So there's CISA, and then it says agency. Well, it should be .gov, and the next one over has an extra S in the CISA. And so what you can do, and at the bottom, let's see if I can. Don't know if it's showing. It's not showing up on the shared screen, unfortunately. So what I'm doing that's not showing up, I apologize, is I'm hovering my mouse cursor on the bottom. Oh, maybe it is showing up. I see some thumbs up. On the sort of darker blue https://www.cisa.gov. Oh, good. And so it's pulling up where it's really going to, and it's going to .cisa, but with two S's, and instead of .gov, it's .us. So that's an example of, if somebody's asking you to click on something, hover your, if you're on your computer, hover your mouse. If you're on your phone, what you can do, and this is something to practice beforehand, go on your phone, pull something up that has a web address. Oh, so I see a message that's not showing up. But so anyway, if you hover, it'll pop up. Try this on your computer. Hover your mouse cursor over an address, and it'll pop up where it's really going to. In this case that I have here, it looks like it should be going to the right place, but what's underneath and not visible until you put your mouse cursor on it without clicking, just hovering, it'll show that, geez, it's really going to another spot. On a phone, you don't have a mouse cursor, but so what you do on your phone, and practice this on something that is not malicious, and you just hold, you touch and hold, so you keep your finger on it, and if you just tap, it'll go there, but if you touch and hold, it'll display information about where that link is going to take you. And depending on your browser on your phone, there are different things that'll show up, but that's something to practice and be aware of. So, if you're on your phone, you can do the same kind of defensive, protective moves. Here's another example. This one came to my phone, and I'm thinking, this is like the classic phishing scam. Here I'm getting an email, and you can see that, my phone services with Xfinity. Well, look at that email link that they're expecting me to click on. It's like xfin.tv. So it looks, a quick look, it looks like Xfinity, but it's like, no. And then it's asking me to say, to avoid interruption of your service, red flag, update payment information, red flag. Well, so this is the sort of intriguing thing about phishing and worrying about phishing. It turns out this was a legitimate message, and that's just how Xfinity formatted their link. And it turned out my card had expired. My service was going to get interrupted. What I did, I went through external sources. So independently, I logged onto my account because I was like, well, I might as well check, even though this is obviously a phishing. But it wasn't. So that's a nice lesson that, we can become overcautious, but I'd rather be overcautious than not. So here's another poll question. If an email encourages you to click on a web link that appears normal, what can you do to check the link's actual destination?
All right, the answers are clicking
Okay,
in even faster
nice.
this time around. I can
Slam
go
that
ahead
one.
and I can go ahead and end the poll now. We have about 90%, and I will share the results.
Okay, and so vast majority, hover your mouse over the link to see where it's headed. Another option might be to well, if you're not sure and you forget, well, when I hover, do I click or not? Never clicked, or just you could always contact your IT department or somebody with more familiarity. But so anyway, that's a good approach. This is another example. This one came from the Commonwealth Fusion Center staff gave me this, and it's an example of a callback, which is nowadays it's very common because it bypasses, if you're the bad guy, you got to get through the the anti-malware kind of software, the automated software on the email. So this doesn't have anything embedded. It doesn't have a suspicious web link that might red flag it to an email filtering service. All it's doing is saying, please give me a call. Because if you don't give me a call, I'm going to debit your credit card because you signed up for a service, which you didn't, of course. But it does sort of make you feel like, geez, if I don't call these people, they're going to take $340 away from me. So you call, and then presumably they're going to say, well, I'm sorry, sir. Apparently you did sign up for it, but you're going to have to give us our credit card number so we can verify that it's you, so we can stop the charge. So this one fortunately, it also has some, goofy language. We will serve you the support into your devices, and then this sort of threat here, this timing kind of thing of deducting money from you. Okay. And then in a similar vein, so this is like the adversary, the phishing email writer is doesn't want to get caught by the email filtering service, so they don't have a click on this link, they don't have an attachment, they don't have a callback number, which conceivably could get added to a blacklist. They just say email me back, and so this one jumps out at you because they want to give me, $2.5 million, and it's not written well. So it's a pretty, it's one that's no good, but it's the technique that could get used in other ways. And so it's basically, if they can engage you, maybe they can convince you of something. And so while it's looks like a dud phishing attempt, the technique is something that somebody else could improve on using that approach. Here's another variation on the same theme. This one is you get an email, but it says, oh, you have a voicemail. You need to listen to this voicemail. This one stood out because it's who's this? Some funny. And then what I have down below where it's that bottom red arrow is pointing to what showed up when I mouse hovered. I hovered my mouse cursor over the click to listen link right next to it. So that's hovering, the result of hovering your mouse, and it popped up as like, oh, if I want to listen to this message, I've got to go to the Bell and Pet Shop. I'm like, I don't think they are a place that normally has voice messages. So that was pretty clearly, a phishing attempt. Okay, another poll question from a bad guy's point of view. What is the advantage of a callback or email back phishing email?
All right, I'll give this another 10 seconds or so. Get your votes in. All right, we'll go ahead and share the results now.
Okay, awesome. Another slam dunk. Okay, onward. We get all, we all get these phishing emails, and here's a list of some of the things that, should like open your eyes a little bit. Some of the suspicious requests to keep in mind. So we've seen variations of the password request. That was went out to the water utilities. The credit card request, that's probably what was going to happen on the one email that was that callback example. Account being closed or locked. That my example of that turned out to be real, but you can see how that's an effective approach for a scammer. Someone sending phishing emails or phishing SMS text messages. The new electronic funds transfer number, update payment information. We saw that. Call back to avoid a problem. We saw that. So these next two are sort of merging more into kind of normal business, but this is things to make you suspicious. It's like a pop-up that says update your software. Well, if you haven't programmed that software to do that or given it permission to pop up update requests, or your utility IT staff haven't done that, well, that's something to be cautious about. And the same thing, obviously opening an attachment or clicking on a link's like normal business function, but it's like the generic, oh, I should pay a little more attention because maybe this is a phishing event. Here's some precautionary measures we can take. So I get an email and I'm not so sure it's coming from somebody I know, or it looks like it's coming from somebody I know. So I contact them and by phone or some other way besides emailing it back to confirm the request. We talked about the hovering the mouse over the web length, or if you have a touch screen, it's like press and hold, and you want to practice that ahead of time. So maybe later today. OPSEC, that's just a term, that's operational security. And essentially that's keeping your information and your utilities information as private as possible. A lot of us work at public utilities. There's certain things that, it's public and we can't, protect. But as much as we can, we should, because anything that's available through, web, it can be used against you, right? So if that phishing person, is trying, they've picked the target and then they're going to research the target. So this is the research part. If I'm writing a phishing email, the more I can learn about you from what's available online, either it's your Facebook or your utility zone page, that's all fodder for me to make a better phishing email. So keep all that as private as you can. Just a personal thing, back up what's important to you. Your utility may have a good backup program of files, but even if they do, you might want to make copies of what's important. There was a person at one utility who had ransomware, and the thing that was most upsetting to that person was that he lost access to his contact list. That was gone. He wasn't going to get it back. And then make sure you're not using an administrator account. So it's not likely But with if you're using an administrator account, um, if a hacker gets control of your computer, they have like a huge advantage. They can do things a lot quicker against your whole organization. And so you want to have just a normal user account. And if you happen to use and need an administrator account, use it sparingly. Only use it when you have to do that function that requires it. And so down below is just a sequence. If you're curious, am I using an administrator account and I don't know about it, which is probably unlikely but possible, is like, for Windows 11, I think 10.2, it's you go to settings, and then you click on your account name, and that'll show what's in that bigger box. And in this case, I have a local account. But if it was an administrator account, it would say local account and underneath administrator. So you don't want to see that. And then finally, if you're at you may be using Chrome at your utility, and it may be set up to automatically update, but it doesn't hurt to check. And if if it's your home computer, you're going to want to make sure your browser, whatever browser you use, is up to date. And like for Chrome, you don't have to be an administrator to get an update. You just, you'll go select the menu and go down to the help section, and you'll see a choice to update your browser if it's needed, or it'll take a look and see if it needs an update. And then if for your home, it's also, maybe it's updating your antivirus and stuff, which, your utility IT person will be doing for you at work. And then, those were things that you could do yourself. And here's some things that you might raise with your IT staff. And keep in mind, the IT staff generally is like overworked and stressed, and it's not an easy job. So you need to show lots of love. And so if you approach these topics, ask them gently. You're not trying to tell them what they should do, because they probably know all these things, but it might be helpful for them to know that you're concerned and you're an ally in this effort to keep secure. So you want to make sure you're using a supported version of Windows, which right now is a Windows 10 or 11. And if we're not, geez, when do you think we'll be able to upgrade? And how do you do patching? When we get a Windows update, how long do you wait? I know you have to check to make sure it doesn't cause conflicts, et cetera, but sort of how quickly can you get to it? And that should be like within, ideally it would be a week, but 2 weeks would be good, and 3 weeks isn't the end of the world. And then if you want to just make sure, and you didn't want to do those steps on the prior slide, is like, do I have an administrator account? Because I really want to just use a user account. And then if you're not doing phishing exercises, that's really important for everybody to get used to and practice. So if you're not doing it, can we set that up? Or if we're already doing it, can we do some more? And then a Windows has a feature called a sandbox, which I really love. It's just a super convenient way to, like, a sandbox in computer terms is like an area in your computer that you can play around, and if you do something stupid, it doesn't cause damage to the computer's permanent file system. It's just like a temporary, in case of the Windows sandbox, it opens a complete instance of Windows in an isolated area of memory. So you can call up websites that, you're not like actively looking for bad websites, but who knows how, if somebody has put some malicious material within that website. So anyway, if you have a sandbox, you can do that. You can take like a PDF attachment from your email that you're like, this is probably good, but I'd like to see what it is, and move it over to the sandbox and then open it up, and know that in all likelihood, if there's any malicious part, it either won't get activated because it's in a sandbox, or if it does, it won't go further than that sandbox and upset the rest of your computer. And when you close the sandbox, everything goes away. So that's something that's, and your IT group might say, no, it's, we're asking for trouble, but, talk to them about it. It's a really good thing. And if, using it in your home computers is a great option too. And then this is just kind of like every utility should be enrolled in CISA's cyber hygiene. So this is not related to phishing, but it's just it's a free service. It's a great service, and just, float that question. And that's what that is CISA will automatically check to see if your utility, it's looking at the internet exposed part of your utility and seeing if there are any vulnerabilities. And if there are, the IT group should be patching. So that's just a great thing at no cost. It's really, really good. Another poll question: what are some precautions you can take to avoid falling for a phishing email?
All right, we're just clicking right along here again.
Okay, this looks like
10 seconds or so.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it's basically, any of those answers are good ones, and the best one is the bottom one. So all of the above. So excellent. So this is sort of a phishing takeaways. Hopefully you have some other ones as well, but these are the ones I want to emphasize. Always be a little suspicious. You can be too suspicious, like I was with that Xfinity SMS message. But that's, to me, that's okay. Maybe you're a little too suspicious and you don't respond to your boss's request to immediately work on this file, and that might be a little more awkward. But call up that boss and say, hey, is this what I should be doing? And if you fall for a phish, contact your IT person immediately. They can prevent it from becoming a real problem. If somebody gets onto your computer and has time to do malicious things, they can impact your whole system. And that's the IT enterprise side, so your email, your billing, your payroll, or the OT side, the SCADA system. I've seen examples of both. But if your IT person is aware of what happened, they can act and minimize the chance for any problems. Keep an eye out for things that do not make sense. So that's sort of the logic of the email, or the internal logic of an email, or even how does it feel? If you get something and you're like, yeah, gosh, I'm not sure, it doesn't feel right, but maybe it is, and who sent it, reach out, find out. We talked about the hovering your mouse or holding down a link if you're on a touch screen. This is the keep your information and utilities information as private as possible. That's sort of the operational security OPSEC. And then just as a personal insurance, make backups of whatever's really important to you, because we're all going to fall for a phish at some time. It's a matter of time. I don't know if I have. I don't think I have, but I know I could. And that's kind of a thing, is you can imagine. I mean, I can definitely imagine drafting a phishing email that I would fall for, because of knowing content and circumstances, and you can think of the same for yourselves. And so it's if somebody knows enough about you or your organization, they'll make it really, really hard to spot. And if they avoid the technical parts that can let them be caught by automated cybersecurity defenses, their chances go way up. Okay, so this just a couple of resources. These are great resources. The first one, this talk was originally scheduled for November, and I got COVID, so it was delayed. So this first link here, this first opportunity has formally passed, it's expired, but Massachusetts has an opportunity to sign up for free. I think it was designed originally for school systems, but it's open to any municipal system. So you can contact these folks and say, hey, I saw I missed the deadline, but you still have some seats available. It's essentially, if they haven't used up all their seats, they have several programs. One lasts a whole year, one's a half year, but it's basically sending you phishing emails and other awareness training for you and your staff. And then the second one is CISA as part of the cyber hygiene. So I talked about the checking the external vulnerability assessments that they do. Another part of that is they'll do a phishing campaign assessment. So talk to them. Again, it's free. I haven't experienced that, so I don't know what it's like, but I bet it's good. And then there are plenty, and there are commercial options too for this. So those are two free ones, but they're commercial. They're firms that will help you with phishing. They'll send you phishing examples for your staff to practice on. And it's really, really important. So that's it. If you have questions, type them in. And Andrew or Rebecca will let me know, and I'll try to answer them as best I can.
I don't see any in the chat box. I'm wondering if I should unmute, but it's 11. It's 3 of 11, so.
Well, if there are no questions, I'm going to just jump to this.
There is one that just came in. And remember, if you have questions for the presenter, just because we have so many people on and unmuting doesn't really work great, just write it in the chat box for us. Will antivirus software help deter a phishing attempt?
So it can. So there's when something's coming in by email, there's going to be software that's filtering for malicious material. So that's not have to be antivirus per se. Antivirus software or endpoint detection and response software is on your computer, and that will help spot your actions when you initiate something malicious by opening a file and it's like trying to do something bad on your computer. That antivirus can help, or that endpoint detection response software can help. So yes, and so that's a good reason to keep all that material, all that cybersecurity defense material updated, the software and the signatures.
That is, go ahead.
Just on the screen that's up there now, it's not quite related. It's slightly related to phishing, but it has to do with bad websites. And this is something that came out fairly recently. Is that if you do a Google search for something, don't click on the ad. Click on what's not the ad below, because it turned out that one group of malicious folks were putting ads up in Google, and when you clicked on that ad, it would take you to their site and it would simulate what you were looking for, and you download malicious software. So just a little side tip. Well, thank you all very much. If you have